morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Yeah. I'm so glad you could join us today for our annual State of the Morris County Real Estate Market, and glad you've helped yourself to lunch. We are recording this, and we have some folks who are joining us remotely on Zoom. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan Hunter. I am president of the Morris County Chamber and Economic Development Corporation. So on behalf of the Chamber, we welcome you today. There will be opportunity for Q&A. We have some fabulous speakers today. I'm so glad they can be joining us and sharing with us all of their insight about the real estate market. I think I covered everything, right, Robert?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're on Zoom, just I think there's a way for you to ask questions, right? Wait. We can.
Yeah, or I can unmute them.
Or unmute them?
Yeah,
okay. Are you monitoring? Okay.
Yep.
So without further ado, we have Howard Weinberg and his team from JLL presenting on office and industrial. So Howard. Oh, and before we start, does anybody need pens or paper? Want to take notes? Okay. Pen?
Yes. Thank you. That's great.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
This is a great turnout. Once again, I'd like to thank Megan and Robert for organizing it. I think this is our fourth or fifth year.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Fourth or fifth year? So glad to be back here. So we split this up into two segments, the office side and the industrial side. I have my research pros here with me, which is Steve Jenko. He's a vice president of the office research group of JLL. And Iggy Armenia is the vice president of the research group from the industrial side of things. So we'll do a little bit of office, a little bit of industrial. Then afterwards, we'll answer any questions somewhere. Should we do it afterwards or after every?
Right after you.
Okay, after we'll have a question and answer period. So Steve is going to talk about the office side of things. The office is kind of the same old story, a little bit better, but the same old story. The industrial side is significantly just continues to go crazy. And Iggy will show it, and we'll talk about Morris County a little bit, and we'll talk about the bigger picture, New Jersey, the region, a little bit more also. So we're going to start off with Steve talking about the office side, and then when we talk, and Iggy and I will talk about the industrial side, and afterwards we'll talk any questions and answers. All right, so we'll get it done like that. All right, Steve, you're up.
Thanks, Howard. Good afternoon, everyone. As Howard mentioned, I'm going to touch on the office market here. You know, I think we probably could play my video from last year if it was recorded for some of the same trends that we'll see on here. But, you know, kind of the three main points here that we're going to hit on. The office vacancy rate did tick a little bit lower compared to where we were last year. We're below 32% compared to about 33% 2017. You know, last year you'll see, again, it was kind of a little bit higher as well. Class A, also in this neighborhood, a little bit higher, close to about 34% in terms of the vacancy rate. Put that in perspective, for the rest of the state, we're around 24.3%. So Morris County is still elevated, but we'll show that in the upcoming slide here. Much of the activity that we're seeing is really two trends that we're seeing in the market. One is smaller transactions, 10 to 25,000 square foot office deals driving much of the activity, which is a little disheartening because we're obviously looking for the 50s, the 75s, the 100 pluses that can really move the needle on vacancy rate. Second trend that we're watching is that we're seeing our office inventory going a change. Our inventory is declining, actually. We don't have new construction replacing buildings that are being rehabbed, demolished. These are older office buildings that are basically being converted to alternative uses. So we're removing our inventory, and that's also removing these large blocks of available space, which is also helping to bring down the vacancy rate, which is a good thing here. And that was evident in the Class B market in Morris County, where we saw the Class B vacancy rate drop from about 29 to 26% in 2018. So again, a little misleading if you see a number like that, thinking everyone's now going to Class B space. Not the case. Rather, it's inventory taken out of the market. Second trend, in terms of business sector, we saw life sciences, pharma, active in Morris County during the past year, representing a little over 60% of the signed leases, but we'll dive into that a little bit in one of the upcoming slides, and we'll see kind of the one or two deals that kind of drove that. And then, going back to the redevelopment that we're seeing, we removed about 618,000 square feet of office buildings from our inventory in Morris County last year. The largest of which were two buildings right over here on 1515 Route 10 in Parsippany, 290,000 square feet, expected to be demolished and be replaced by a mixed-use project in the future West Danbury development. Turn to the next slide. Basically, we're looking at office vacancy rates, as I mentioned, the state in gray and Morris County in red there. And we see the decline that we're seeing for both markets. Despite the decline, as I mentioned, Morris County is still higher than what we're seeing for the overall state. Morris County, that 31.7% is being driven by about 8 million feet of available office space that's marketed for lease or sublease. I mentioned also the smaller size transactions. We see the similarities between 2017 and 2018. The breakdown here with the red shading are the smaller deals, as I mentioned, the 10 to 25,000 square foot ranges. Pretty comparable, 67%, 70% of the deals within that range. The other takeaway in this is really the lack of the larger deals. I'll get into the 100,000 square foot deal that made this list, but again, we saw nothing in 2017 within that larger range. Pharma life sciences sector, that 100,000 plus deal was due to the Teva deal, which received some press. That was positive for the state as well as Morris County. Teva inked a 345,000 square foot renewal and expansion over at 400 Interface Parkway in Parsippany. This was an economic incentives driven deal. They received about $40 million tax credit from the state over 10 years to move their headquarters that was based in Pennsylvania over into New Jersey and basically to expand here. So there's a little bit of a different trend of what we were seeing in the state for the past couple of years of companies moving their headquarters out of state. In this case, we saw a headquarters coming into the state, and Teva decided they're going to expand now in Morris County. In addition, we saw Alvogen leasing close to 85,000 square feet over at 44 Whippany Road, a building that was recently renovated. And that's really been a trend that I've failed to mention, is that high-end Class A amenitized space is really the product that's in demand right now by companies. So within Morris County, you can see the breakdown that we have here. Morris County broken up into Parsippany markets, Route 24 market, and then the Western Route 80 market. I'll focus on Parsippany, which is about 14 million square feet of rentable space, which is about 60% of Morris County's office market. We can see actually for Parsippany, it actually did increase a little bit compared to the rest of the markets in Morris County, increasing close to about, I don't know if it shows too well on there, but should say close to about 33%. Most of that being driven by Wyndham, putting about 187,000 square feet on the market for sublease at 14 Sylvan Way in Parsippany. They consolidated their operations down to Orlando after spinning off their hotel and timeshare business. And this really represents the largest block of sublease space in the Parsippany market right now. Within Parsippany, we're tracking about 5 million feet of available office space. Within that, we're tracking 11 buildings within Parsippany that have at least 100,000 square feet available. Turning to rents, we can see Morris County has trailed rental rates for Class A space versus the rest of the state. State's Class A rental rate, you can see above $30.60 a square foot, representing about 3% increase from last year. And what's really driving this, again, not necessarily demand driving up rental rates, but we're seeing building upgrades, building renovations. So basically we're seeing landlords going back into the market and marketing their upgraded buildings at higher rental rates now. And again, keep in mind these are asking rental rates, not necessarily rents that companies may be signing spaces for. And I believe this is the last slide. Just to give you an idea of the downsizing of the inventory that I mentioned before. we can see, well, I guess we can see a little bit. That should say 2017 was about 27 million square feet in Morris County. We dropped to about 26.2 million square feet 2018. And now we're expecting 2019, we're going to be removing the former BASF campus, which is about 1 million square feet in the western Route 80 market, which, if you remember from a slide or two before, you saw that 60% vacancy rate. Most of that is due to the former BASF campus. It's no longer being marketed for lease for office space, so for us, that's not counted as really competitive to the rest of the office space in Morris County. So no decision yet on what's going to happen with that campus. But we're going to be removing that from our inventory, which, barring any other removal, just taking that 1 million out is going to drop us down to about 25 million square feet, a little over 25 million for Morris County. And all things constant, we would see our vacancy rate drop in Morris County from the close to 32% that we saw in 2018. We drop it down to about 29% just by removing this one campus out of the inventory. So see the large impact that had. Howard, that's about it for office.
Okay, good. Thank you, Steve. So, we're going to switch over to the industrial side of things, and Morris County has a great story to tell. Usually my experience with Morris County is when things are going well and the markets in Bergen County, the Meadowlands is exploding, and then you further west, you go into Fairfield, those areas are exploding. We get the benefit of all that. We get the overflow. And when markets are weaker, we tend to weak a little quicker. We get just the market just gets, we see it faster than, let's say, the eastern counties. So this past year, 2018, it was a great year for Morris County. And Iggy will talk about, the overview of things. We've had 2 large vacancies, the PNY building, which is putting on about 400,000 feet of industrial vacancy, and then you have the Toys R Us, which is approximately 1.4 million. So that kind of, it changes the dynamics of the outward statistics. But if you take those 2 buildings away, and those are only for very, unique type of users, if you take those buildings away and the normal Morris County type of user, which is a small user, typically under 50,000 square feet, we're at less than 2% vacancy, which is phenomenal. Fairfield is about the same, about under 2% vacancy. The Meadowlands, somewhat similar. So we're holding our own on that end of it. So there's a lot of new things in the works, and Iggy's going to talk about it. New development that we really haven't seen much in years past, and this is because of the need for bulk, call it e-commerce, logistics space. That's pushing the market upwards, and people are putting money into projects that we never really thought we'd see out in this area. And I'll let Iggy talk about the rest of the statistics, and then we'll answer any questions.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me again. So I think as Howard mentioned, New Jersey as a whole is continuing to see a record level of growth in the warehousing and distribution space. And that's true at a national level, at a global level, and especially true in a market like New Jersey due to our access to population and being located right on the eastern seaboard. When you look at the market as a whole, it's really benefiting from, 1, the growth of e-commerce, 2, an urbanizing population, especially a younger population that continues to urbanize or re-urbanize, and 3 is a recovery, which we're now 10 to 11 years into, that's been entrenched and deep-seated in consumption spending growth. But that's the key part. So we see consumers change the way they buy goods. We've seen them buy more goods, and where they're buying those goods, closer to dense urban areas like New York City. All a really good story for this market, and for specifically Morris County. As Howard alluded to, headline numbers for Morris County this year look abysmal, is what I think most people would say at first glance. Again, that goes down to 2 buildings that are way outsized compared to the rest of the buildings in Morris County. Average building size in Morris County is probably around 35 to 50,000 square feet, with 80% of the buildings being in that size range, or less than 50,000 square feet. However, the two largest vacancies, one being 400,000 square feet, the other being 1.4 million square feet, having a significant impact on headline statistics, but really not making a large difference for the average user or traditional user of industrial space within Morris County. So, as I mentioned, this is just a chart of absorption for all of New Jersey as a whole. You can see that since, like, this slide's got a little mess up, but since 2012, I mean, the rate of absorption in the state has been phenomenal. We've really seen the market continue to pick up, and with vacancy now in most major submarkets below 2%, we've seen rents pick up at an astonishing pace, usually around 10% rent growth year over year. Some markets can see up to 20% rent growth. In fact, Morris County was one of those markets when you strip away the big boxes. When you look at just what we determine as small box space under 50,000 square feet, rent growth was 20% year over year. So from a real estate standpoint, that may be good for developers, but could put a bit on operating budgets of some firms. So as I mentioned before, if we look at vacancy historically for Morris County, which is the top line in black, you've seen it's fairly consistent and steady. It was drifting down all the way up until about the beginning of this year at 5.8%, right? But if you look at that small box market, it's performed even better. Oh wow, I'm making marks on the screen. This is fun now. 4.7%. So that is a really telling statistic about what the real market's like. Because that's what the market's like for 80% of the users in this market, and for 80% of the occupiers and owners of the market. It's a 1% vacant market with 20% rent growth. I think that, and those stats coincide exactly with what we're seeing in the larger market. However, there is a belief that the market is fundamentally changing. Lack of availability of development sites along the I-95 corridor, where most, as I said before, most tenants are typically entrenched and developers are entrenched. That is starting to fade. We're seeing traditional prejudices towards certain markets fading. You've seen the Piscataway market along 287, Somerset market explode with development activity. A market which, as Howard explained before, Morris County gets the same reputation for being last to rise and first to fall. That market has seen tremendous activity, both from tenants and from investors. First, from investors putting speculative capital to work, but now we're seeing a lot of those investments really pay off and developers become vindicated for the decisions they make. Similarly, we've seen the same story here. Two large vacancies, both scooped up by institutional capital. Turnbridge Equities purchased the P&Y building, while Square Mile purchased the former Toys R Us building. Both are vacant and being marketed for sale, and really being positioned as alternative logistics locations for big box users accustomed to a market like Exit 8A in South Brunswick or the 287 corridor. So again, we're seeing this movement of capital west for industrial along Route 80, just like we saw it west along 78, where projects are being developed in Phillipsburg, or west along 287, or south down past Exit 7A and Exit 6, which were traditionally the zero barrier where you didn't see much large-scale industrial development. We've now seen all of these locations a little bit further out really start to gain traction, both from a leasing and capital deployment standpoint. Our feeling is that Morris County will be the next one of these markets to really see significant growth from a leasing perspective. Oh, thank you. So I won't do that again. I promise. I actually already circled the things on this announcement. So again, I was just pointing out this is a chart demonstrating where in orange where construction activity occurred in 2018 versus where future development is planned. And so you see that spread, right, as opposed to the clustering, the former clustering, you're seeing the spread. You see the spread that happened at 287, that's 287, right? This is 78, development along 78 corridor with Bridges Phillipsburg development project. And now a proposed site out here in Roxbury. That's a site that we're actually handling and marketing, and it's about a 3.7 million square foot development site, which will likely trade later this year and be, one of the first keystones of building in a logistics market along Route 80, which has not happened yet. So with that, take any questions, Howard and I love to take any questions.
Do you have any questions for office or industrial?
Okay, Steve?
Yep.
What's it gonna take in Morris County to see that vacancy fall? Do we need to see more buildings get scraped, or?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the consensus in our office is, the buildings that have been historically vacant, whether they be A- or definitely Class B type buildings that are just not going to attract a tenant of today. What we're finding now is that companies are using buildings for marketing and for recruiting purposes. We've got a tight labor market, single-digit unemployment rate. Companies more than ever are looking to see where they're going to pull their labor from. And if you're looking at a millennial labor force, you're going to say, okay, we want to hire you, and your potential applicant may look at your space and look at your building and say, I can't see myself working here. This is depressing. What do I, I'm going to go somewhere else. That's a cool, hip place. It's, whatever it is, a mixed use type development, 24/7. We're a little challenged in the market. We don't have this EV vibe that, maybe Jersey City and Newark has. I think we have to be creative for those suburban markets and those standalone buildings. There has been that going on now in some of the suburban markets of developing a mixed use type of feeling where you have the residential, the live, work, play type of environment that companies are gravitating towards.
Isabel has a question.
Hi, I was wondering what your thoughts are on the international trade zone in Mount Olive.
Yeah, so that, it's an interesting question, right? I think a lot of people, when that was built, expected that would be a significant value to tenants. The ability to trade goods inside that area and that tax-free would have significant benefits. My feeling is the reason you locate in New Jersey is really to distribute to the population. Your sole focus, especially today, is speed to delivery to the consumer. And so the benefit is lost because I'm just getting the goods there so that I can send them out in a day. The value is often lost on the majority of tenants, or the tenants that are really driving value in New Jersey.
That being said, the trade zone is a popular destination for companies because it has most of the product in Morris County is older generation product. And even though the trade zone was built, call it 20 years ago, there plus or minus, it has still some of the better inventory of product in Morris County. So that's why companies have relocated from outside of Morris County to the trade zone because they couldn't find appropriate, product elsewhere. So it's full.
It is full.
Yeah, essentially it's full. Yeah.
Steve, I couldn't see on how much space was leased last year in office space in the county, including the large deals, and what was the what's the asking class size, best class size space going forward?
Yeah, so I don't have a number I'm thinking off the top of my head. I mean, it was definitely under 1 million square feet in terms of leasing, and that's going to include everything from renewals to expansion and so forth. When you're looking at Class A space, I think we just went through the slide there a little bit. That was the average, I think, for Morris County Class A. And that's a subjective term. We debate it in our office all the time in terms of what defines a Class A building, one building across the street from the other. They're both called Class A, but you can make the argument, well, that's really an A+ versus A- and so forth. But it's depending on the market, you're going to see, rents, in that $30 square foot range, the higher end type of product, and then start dropping off, and then start going to lower quality type space.
Shelley, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. So regarding office space, you were talking earlier about removal and repurpose. So as these office buildings are, how feasible is it to repurpose a 1980s office building into a residential project, for example? I mean, does that work, or are we taking buildings down?
If you're going to go residential, chances are you're going to be knocking the building down completely. And even for retail and so forth. I think what we've seen from an office repurposing standpoint, I think about probably one of the most recent examples in Morris County is the Zoetis headquarters in Parsippany on Summer Way. That was an older office building, basically taken down to the steel. So consider basically new construction at that point. But for the most part, an office building, unless they're going to go possibly medical, and we saw some of that going on in Bergen County now, where you're taking office buildings, turning them into outpatient surgery centers and so forth, where hospitals are looking at this potential medical space then. And that's probably the best, repurposing. Otherwise, if you're going to go industrial, definitely you're not using it.
One of the problems with repurposing is part ratios.
Yeah,
That's one of the ones
National waived or received.
There's a higher ratio than what they were built for. Typically those office buildings have 3 to 4 per thousand. Medical may need 6 or 7 per thousand or more.
Thank you.
On the industrial side, we're doing some projects in 8A right now. People call about Lehigh Valley, all those areas, and you mentioned this. Are you starting to see interest for, I guess, on both sides, on big box users, 250,000 square foot plus, and then the end users that are 150, that range, and which particular areas in Morris County, and if you could talk a little about the rents that you're seeing for maybe for both those classes?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? You've seen tenants look further and further west across all markets, right? So typically, it used to be you were an 8A requirement, you were a Basic 10 requirement, you were a Meadowlands requirement.
Right.
Today, I'm a New Jersey requirement, typically.
Right.
Especially when you look at the 1 million square foot size segment, there are no 1 million square footers available except for one being built by Prologis now down at Exit 6. That's it. So when you're looking for especially large blocks, it's New Jersey, or you have to look in the Lehigh Valley where you have more options. So you haven't seen any requirements that have said, I want to be in Morris County, or even consider Morris County, but you also haven't had product yet in Morris County other than these first 2 projects that have come available and you're just started marketing in the past few months. So the bellwether and the precursor for some of this development will be how well do these larger block lease. Now, it's also worth noting they're not new construction. Even the Toys R Us building, which is 20 years old now, and while it was kept up fairly well and has some modern amenities, it doesn't have all of them. There's issues with building depth. Right.
And what about on the smaller side, on the end users who are looking for the 100 and sub 100? Are you seeing interest? Are you seeing rates in Morris County, rent rates, keeping pace with the rest of the state in those other areas?
For 100,000 foot, you can't limit, if you need 100,000 feet, you can't limit yourself to looking for more in Morris County. You got to go beyond a larger geographic search area because there aren't a lot of options.
Right.
And as far as the rents, I mean, you could go from everywhere from the high 7s. If it's a newer type product of some sort, you could be in the high 9s. And if you're in Bergen County, you're at 12, 13.
Right.
Yeah,
It's all over the board.
You're searching regionally across all of these.
Yeah.
But, to your question on just pegging where rent growth is.
Right.
Overall rent growth, right, that includes that black line that shows like a 9% vacancy, which is way above average, right, 12% rent growth year over year. So despite that, you're still seeing landlords pushing rents and tenants not blinking at rent increases. On the small box at 1.7%, it was a 20% year over year growth rate.
I think a lot of our time on the brokerage side is spent educating clients to sticker shock.
Sure.
That's, everybody has it across the
Right.
board.
One more question?
Yeah, Steve, what are your thoughts on the office market in the more urban areas, say Morristown, for example?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We do, in addition to looking at New Jersey, we look at transit markets. So Morristown fits within that mold of the suburban transit markets as well as urban transit markets. A market like that, I've always been bullish on Morristown because I think it kind of presents the best of both worlds of kind of what you're looking for. If you grew up in Morris County, you want to stay close to your parents, but you know what, you want access to a train line, maybe you're going to rent an apartment. Morristown, I think, presents a great option. I think you have the development going on there, the residential, the retail, turning into more of that vibrant, that downtown area there. Some other redevelopment, I'm sure, is going to be taking place there as well down the road. So I'm positive on Morristown. I think it's just a matter of you have limited, high-end office inventory in that market. Office vacancy rate downtown Morristown, I think, is somewhere around 12 to 13%. So not a whole lot of options if you're looking for an existing building and you have a large requirement. Even though maybe you do want to be in downtown, you may have to find yourself backing out a little bit from that area at the moment because, again, you don't have any construction.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. We'll be back later for more questions. Stick around? Okay, great. You don't have to run. All right, so I'm really pleased. We have a new speaker with us this year on retail. Mr. Florian Susserman, Morris County resident, knows the retail landscape like the back of his hand. So
Probably not so well.
thank you for Thank you for being with us and look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Ripco Real Estate.
So first, I just want to let for those people that don't know Ripco and who we are, we're based out of Lyndhurst. We have offices in Manhattan and Long Island, and we are all we do is retail. So we either represent retailers that are expanding, relocating, or we represent the landlords that have downtown retail or highway retail. So I am going to throw Curtis Nassau as my office partner. If you don't mind coming up here and sitting over here, so when we get some questions, they can ask you some questions too, if you don't mind. That would be helpful. So I'll go over to the first screen, and let's talk about Morris County. So I'm a resident, so I can speak to it. I don't know if everybody else is. For 30 plus years, okay? I moved to Morris County. I didn't know where I was moving to, but you know what? Everybody else wants to tap into the retail trade. What do they want to tap in? They want to tap into the incomes. They want to tap in education levels. They want to tap in, I don't know about the age so much, but it's an affluent marketplace, just to say. So it's important for the retailers that want to come in here. What else do we have that Morris County is so good? I'm very happy with this one, right? We're 50 minutes. We use Morris Plain as a pinpoint on the dot. We're 50 minutes from New York City. We're 70 minutes from the beach. We're 70 minutes to the Pocono Mountains skiing. We have 12 golf courses within Morris County. We have 10 malls within reach within Morris County. You can spend, you can shop, you can enjoy your life. We're surrounded with some tremendous counties, right? What does that mean? We have a great base from towns like Livingston and Essex County and Summit and Union County that surround Morris County. So we have universities that are in town. And we have this town called Morristown, which Curtis named. This is his deal. It's the Hoboken West. So what does that mean? That means everybody talks about who's coming here and what kind of retailers are coming. So let me just talk about retail, because as I'm standing here, I'm sure some people in this room are saying, how's this guy make a living? Retail's dead, right? I mean, nobody's doing. I see the media, and I see Sears closing, and I see Kmart closing, and Toys R Us. Those guys are all closing because their businesses are all has-beens. And yes, Has time changed? I remember in year 2000 when Y2K came out, everybody said, you know, computers are gonna crash. And then when that stopped working, the internet was so popular, so brick and mortar was gonna melt away. You know, 19 years later, we still have brick and mortar. You know, the main difference is every single person in this room and your spouses, girlfriends, kids, grandkids, whatever it may be, you all have so many devices. You all have a cell phone. You all have an iPad. You all have a computer at work, a computer. Somebody could be in this room right now ordering something from Amazon and I don't know it. It's so easy to shop. However, the transition of the retail world now is going into beauty, is going into fitness, is going into restaurant, it's going into supermarket, and it's going into just a new condensed version of retailers that are getting a little bit better, that's all. Okay, so what do we have? We have a tremendous road network. Everybody here can go anywhere they want. So living in Montville, I can get to 287 in 2 minutes. I can get to Route 80 in 2 minutes. I can get into Route 80 in 2 minutes. I can get to Route 46 in 1 minute. You know, Route 10, 10 minutes away. Route 202, 206. All these major roads. Florham Park has Columbia Turnpike, Hanover Avenue in Hanover. Look what's happened in Hanover Avenue. We'll talk about that in a second. Chester, Lincoln Park, all these smaller towns just have a lot of business now. We have tremendous downtowns, Chatham, Madison, Morristown, Montville, Dover. All of these towns right now are expanding. Why? They all have a transit village, okay? So everybody thinks it's all the youth that's coming into these towns and the young people that want to come into these towns. Whether you go into Roseland Properties in West New York and Weehawken and Hoboken and Jersey City, or whether you're in, everybody is moving to renting an apartment, having a lifestyle to live, but people my age are selling their, quote, white picket fence to go rent an apartment to have a lifestyle too. We don't need the yards anymore. I don't need the gutters freezing. I don't need my sump pump backing up. And you see all this residential, which I'm sure you're going to talk about, right, is tremendous right now. These mixed-use projects, we're working on so many mixed-use projects. It's incredible. So we'll talk about that in a second too. So let's talk about retailers, tenants, right? That's what people want to hear. So what's happening in retail in generality over here, and we're seeing it in Morris County too. So medical, you're seeing a lot of urgent care going into retail. We're seeing surgical centers going into retail. We're seeing dental going into retail, eye care, physical therapy. Why? Easier parking, easier access. And all these tenants now have a billboard outside. If you're on the 5th floor of your office building, and now you can come out on the street, you can maybe pay a little bit more rent, but you got the tremendous visibility. People do not have time. It's crazy. Curtis was saying this the other day. You could have 105 fever. You don't want to wait in your doctor's office. You go to urgent care. You go in 10 minutes, you're out. It's crazy. We don't have time to go be sick. So you look at companies right now like Burlington and Marshalls and TJ Maxx and HomeSense and Cost Plus World Market and Harmon and Bed Bath. They're taking advantage of these Toys R Us closing. They're taking advantage of these Sears closing. They're taking advantage of some of these big box opportunities. Somebody's failure in the retail world is somebody else's opportunity to expand. So to me, I've never seen, you hear all the negativity. Sure, things are changing, but they're not changing so bad, okay? So let's talk about fitness, right? I'm just gonna name it. Florham Park, Lifetime Fitness. Who doesn't belong to Lifetime Fitness? I don't, but everybody else. Planet Fitness, 24-Hour Fitness, LA Fitness, Retro Fitness, Anytime Fitness, Orange Theory, Club Pilates, Row House, Cycle Bar, Yoga 6, StretchLab. I can make this list keep going. Everybody here belongs to some gym somewhere, somehow, okay? What's happening now is even these Planet Fitnesses and these 24-Hour Fitness that keep expanding because the opportunity is there. People want to be healthy. People want to look healthy. People want to feel healthy. And it's an opportunity that they didn't have before to really expand all these gyms in all these areas. These small, if you look at all these multi-purpose towns like Morristown, Cycle Bar and Club Pilates in Madison and Chatham, all these towns are demanding this specialty fitness use. They don't want to go to a gym for 3 hours and pretend. They want to go in, get yelled at for 50 minutes, rowing by the instructor, and go home. It's just, and they pay a lot of money for it. The more expensive it is, the more people have. Why? Because Morris County's got the discretionary income. So let's talk about the supermarket segment, okay? That's probably one of the largest segments right now. So people are eating out more, so there's more restaurant opportunities, and you know, we know the Jersey difficulty with getting liquor licenses, but right now, look at Weiss Market, first, you know, moving up here north in Jersey, opening in Randolph. ShopRite's expanding, you know, they're not doing 50,000 stores, 80,000 square feet, 100,000 square feet. You know, you need 4 hours to go to ShopRite now. It's crazy. Look at Wegmans, Stop and Shop. Has anybody heard of this small company called Aldi? They opened up their first store up here up in Livingston. They have many stores in New Jersey and many more coming, selling their own brand. Has anybody heard of this other little company that has only like 12,000 locations in the world called Lidl, right? So they now in Union, and they're working their way up here. You may like what they offer or not. That's personal. Great opportunity though. Whole Foods expanding. Okay, they're just opening up now at Waterview Plaza, right? In Parsippany. Trader Joe's. They have a bunch of new locations. Can't talk about it, but they have a bunch of new locations looking. And has anybody been to Uncle Giuseppe's in Ramsey?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you know Uncle Giuseppe's, they're heavily looking in Morris County to try and find a location for them. If you've never been to Uncle Giuseppe's, and I don't own any, you know, any part of it, it's a great place to go to. Entertainment. Sky Zones, Dave & Buster's, bowling. They even have hatchet throwing now. Nobody in a million years would they think it would go into retail, but very popular right now. You know why? Because everybody in this room's got too much money and they like to spend it. Okay? Sorry. So beauty.
So can you drink alcohol when you throw the hatchet?
Yes.
Oh my God.
You can't, they can't sell it to you, but yes, you can bring it in.
Really?
And they have you sign a waiver when you go in that says that if you die, they're not responsible. That's the waiver. So what's happening? So the next biggest segment is beauty. Everybody wants to feel good today. Between the fitness, now it's beauty, right? So Moxie Blow Dry Salon and Beauty Bar, Dry Bar, Blow Bars, Hand and Stone Massage and Spa, Massage Envy, Amazing Lash, Waxing the City. All these, it's unbelievable. You don't have to, you can get romanced everywhere you go. So the reality is the Sears, Kmart's, Macy's, JCPenney's, they're all gonna be here, but they're gonna get a little smaller and slow down a little bit. Home improvement, look, Lowe's is coming into Hanover. Everybody knows that. Why? Because it was an opportunity in square footage. We're tight on square footage, so wherever we can go. I could talk about restaurants, but the companies like the Paneras of this world and new companies like Urban Plates and Yard House and Miller's Ale House, you know, they're coming into Rockaway Mall. BJ's Brew House and Be Good. So many companies want to tap into Morris County. I can't even continue this list because it would just go on forever. So Waterview, I'll just do this quickly. Waterview Marketplace, Whole Foods is coming, DSW, so everybody here can buy some shoes and get some makeup at Ulta. It's all good. Be Good is there. So what do they want? They tap into the office population of Parsippany. And they you know, they're tapping into the daytime pop and the number of businesses and the number of households. So, you know, Whole Foods wants to tap in and get some of that Morris County money, right? Cedar Knolls Plaza, just as an example, that's what Walmart, there's gonna be a big announcement on that. So that whole center is gonna be redeveloped. You know, Mount Olive, Curtis took this shopping center over from the owner and sat down with him on a plan to take this dead center and spend some money renovating it. Renovating had 11 vacancies. There's 1 or 2 vacancies left. But when you help the landlord renovate, spend some money in this county, it works. So now obviously you have the Lowe's coming, and so there's all different types of shopping centers. There are 28 very busy, well-known shopping centers in Morris County. They're all doing business. They're all doing well. There are some vacancies like in Mount Olive or Roxbury Mall or Chester. But Castle Ridge, Boonton, Meadtown up in Kinloch, all busy. Marshalls, they're all these vacancies will get filled. So when you see it and you drive by and you say, oh, it's empty, sometimes it takes a while to get a deal done. So they may be empty for a little while. But this is what people really are looking for over here. The vacancy reports in this area over here. You have the road network that cuts through Morris County. The vacancy report, the vacancy rate for retail in New Jersey, and that's after hearing, office, is 7.04%, okay? Which is super low. The national average, I think, was 16%. We're at 7.04%. The worst one, and one of the worst ones is part of Morris County at 9.4%. We don't have a disaster of lack of retail. We don't have so much vacancy that we don't know what to do with. So let me just catch up here one split second. Bless you. So just on my last screen, just as a final follow-up, Morris County is a great place to be. It's situated in the heart of the state. Everybody goes through it. Everybody spends money in it. Everybody shops in it. Retail is not going away. Brick and mortar is here to stay. People have to go somewhere to enjoy life. You have to go somewhere to work out. You have to go to somewhere to eat. You will shop. You will get into your car. You will not only stay home and stay in Amazon and live your life doing that. So I can only tell you, it's funny, our office, and I can only speak for our office, has been the busiest that it's been probably in a few years. There's so much activity. So when you see a vacancy, there's always a transition, and it takes a little bit of time, but the county's probably not in as bad shape as people think it is. So, or maybe as the media says it is. So as a state of retail, I think we're okay. It's just changing.
Yes, Isabel.
I'm wondering how retail relates to the growth in multifamily housing development and the COA issue in New Jersey.
So
What's the relationship?
I can't speak to COA, okay?
No, but I mean
And-
the development.
I can only tell you that the amount, go into any town, forget about just Morris County, go into any town, there's 15 residential projects going up for rentals right now in every single town. How that relates to COA, I don't know. A lot of the residential units need the retail as an amenity for the people that are moving in. So I can't speak for the COA laws, but I can tell you that whatever retail they do down there, whether it's a dry cleaner or another sandwich shop or another beauty salon or a small specialty fitness, they need it. They need it. That's what people are expecting. But I'm sorry, I don't really. She can speak to COA probably better than
No,
I
but
can.
that's what's happening. There's multifamily development now in Morris County at a much greater rate than we ever saw before.
It's not slowing anytime soon. I don't know when it's going to slow down. You got to speak to the residential people, because to me, I see all these projects going. I drove by Hackensack, Main Street Hackensack in Bergen County the other day, and that was just like a small, down by the courthouse. And I just drove up, and there's 14 residential projects going on in Hackensack. It's opportunity driven, and people want it. And I think I have a 27-year-old son who is a professional, makes a lot of money. They want to live here for 1 year and live there for 1 year. They don't want the white picket fence, don't need it. They don't want the taxes. They don't use the amenities in the town. And all these residential units are allowing them to be nomads. They don't collect anything. They have a TV set in a bed, right? And 9 electronic items, right? 3 pairs of jeans, 19 pairs of sneakers, and you're good to go.
My question's retailer related. As you know, we work with a lot of retailers, and one of the things to compensate with the technological disruption that they're facing is reevaluating their real estate, their space needs, and so forth. So what would you say the strategy is going to become for retailers as they continue to face the disruption from e-com and technology?
So that's an excellent question, by the way. And just so you know, he's a troublemaker. He's with CoStar. Right? So I could probably let Curtis answer that better. So would you explain, Curtis runs Panera corporate leaf, okay, in New Jersey. What does it take to do a Panera deal today versus, so that people understand how much work goes into today versus what it used to be? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Kind of?
yeah.
Go ahead.
I think all the retailers today are getting more competitive in how they assess the market, where they're opening, in terms of their needs, and making a decision to go into a market. You're seeing footprints, to your point, shrinking, the size of the retail space shrinking, yet there's desire to be in the market without a doubt. What a number of retailers are seeing, and you'll see it with Staples as a whole. When Staples leaves the market, and you'll see it with a number of retailers, you'll see their internet sales go down as well. So they need a presence for brick and mortar in the market. You'll see Chipotle sizes going from 24 or 2,200 to 18 to 2,200. You'll see Panera with mixed-use footprints. You'll see all the fast casual restaurants with smaller footprints, and you'll see the larger department stores. You'll see there are a number of Kohl's which have shrunk their footprints as well across the board. But in this Amazon age of instant gratification that we all want our stuff now, there is a demand for the retailer to be in the market and to have a presence close to the people. You asked about the mixed-use housing. We're doing a lot of it these days. It's about having an amenity right there for the consumer today. So whether it's restaurant, whether it's personal care, traditional retail less so today in terms of the brick and mortar, but there's still a need to be in the market. We're seeing CVS's across the board. Everybody's happy to go into CVS and pay a premium for whatever item you're buying because you want it now. You look at the Wawas and the Quick Checks with their 6,000 square foot convenience stores. You can get everything from a t-shirt to a sandwich to something for the car or a hammer in a Wawa today. It's a mini department store. But the truth of the matter is there, I'll pay a premium for it because of convenience. So to your point, the footprints are shrinking, but there's a need to be close to the consumer. The consumer wants it now.
So I'll leave you on this note. Cannibalization, very important, right? Access, parking. Panera wants to know where the nearest high school is, and they want to know if they have open lunches. They want to know how many seniors are in that school. They want to know where the nearest, leader in a hospital, they want the details, but they don't want it in graph format. They want it in reality format. So they do a lot more homework today to get a deal done. It's very detailed, and they're very smart at doing so.
So, Florian, what do you think of the comeback of Toys R Us? What is it called? True Kids or something?
I think they're starting in Europe. I heard about this yesterday. I was talking about somebody about it yesterday. I think their first comeback is in Europe. I think that Toys R Us, and I may be wrong, I have no clue on this. I'm just talking from what I've been told. They were making money as a company selling toys, but they were over leveraged by how they were run and poor management and whatnot. So they drowned in debt, more than that they couldn't sell toys. So it's a shame. I wouldn't be surprised if they came back. Why not, right? Everybody's having kids, right? And who doesn't like a toy? Although my 2-year-old grandson is a whiz with the phone. I don't know. They're different.
Good. Well, so you have a sunny optimism for retail in our county.
I think in New Jersey and it's a great county to be in, right? So you're in charge of a great county, and the people that live here know it. Thank you very much for having me.
So I'm so excited to have Leslie with us today. Leslie is also a new face this year. And so we're going to hear from her about the state of real estate, and just for those of you who don't know Leslie, she was a professional tennis player for many years. And aren't you having CBS is doing something?
Back Monday, yeah.
Monday. So Monday she'll be on CBS talking about her experience with professional tennis. But today she's here talking about real estate and her expertise. So thank you, Leslie. Take it away.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everybody. I am really excited to be here. I am a salesperson with West End Residential, and for those of you all who don't know, it's a brokerage firm located in Morris County. It's a woman-owned business. We're in our 5th year. We handle all price points, all types, and we have closed business in 7 of the 21 counties here in New Jersey, and each year our sales volume has increased. So we're also very proud of that fact. And one of our tagline is, we know real estate. So just as a quick thumbnail of what we're going to talk about, how that impacts the residential real estate. Quite simply, economic stuff. I want to make sure when you leave here, I always like when I make a presentation that somebody goes home with one nugget or one fact. So I'll show you how to analyze the residential real estate market. And there are certain trends that are impacting the residential market. And there's a little bit of tidbit on a housing forecast. So much for what my esteemed colleagues have said, Morris County is in a great place. So the red in this, well, let's start with the green. The green indicates the unemployment rate for the state. So as you see, there we are, Morris County, where the green is the 4.2 rate, right? Anything under that, so we're in a great spot. The gray is 4.3% unemployment to 4.9, and the red 5.2 to 7.3. So because we are in a great space with increasing salaries, our unemployment rate is low and people are poised and want to buy homes, and that makes me very happy. So here is the trend for New Jersey compared to the US. And just to tell you, it's a percentage-wise, what percentage of people own houses? So in the US, which is blue, it's 64%, all right? In the green is New Jersey, all of New Jersey, it's 66%. But what key thing along with this, the fact that people are buying homes, we also have that thing we don't like to talk about. People are bolting, they are leaving New Jersey for lots of reasons. We have that high move-out rate. But people are still coming because of all of the companies and things that are coming. So we keep that in mind. My favorite factoid, and a lot of the information that we get is sometimes from a professional, a third-party vendor, appraiser, auto. And so it's interesting to think that of all of the New Jersey homes in our state, only 70% of them have children under 18. Wow, is right. Now, some of you all may be thinking, how does that account with my 24-year-old who's come back home from college and is living in the basement or in their childhood room? You know, that's not part of this, but that's pretty significant. The fact that they are childless could be the reason why some are leaving, because they've sort of grown up here and now they want to move on to somewhere else. Renters in 2017 were about 38%, but now they've moved up to be 34%, so that marries with this number here. And the one thing, even though millennials want to move, they only have their shoes and they have all their devices, at some point that gets old. And they're still in that millennial category, just at the older portion of the millennial category. They are actually, within our county and within the state, our highest buyer population. So the first thing that I like to do, and we have to do, is educate our client to make sure they understand how and what to expect within the market. So when you're analyzing a market, obviously it's the supply and the demand. Are you in a town that's appreciating? Are you in a town depreciating or flat? And how long do homes stay on the market in your space? Because all of that is going to depend on whether somebody may want to live there, whether someone wants to sell their house, whether, you know, or whether you maybe even want to build a development in that particular space. So when I analyze the market, I can start out very broad. What's it going on in the Northeast? We heard a lot about that. Shrink it down, what's going on in New Jersey? Okay, we're in Morris County. That's what we're here to talk about today. What is going on in Morris County? What is going on in a particular town? What's going on in Morris Township may be different than Dover, may be different than Harding. Even neighborhoods in towns can be different. The price point and even the type. So depending on what you are planning to do, buy, sell, build, whatever, you need to really understand what is going on in the community where you want to be. And we start with the absorption rate. And I'm just going to talk like you all don't know what this is, because some of you and many of you may understand. But there's such a thing as a buyer's market and a seller's market. And I want to make sure when you leave here, you all can say, I know what a buyer's and seller's market is, and I know what Morris County is. So it's really supply and demand. If you are in the 5 to 6 month range, and that's how long it takes to sell your home, then you are in a normal market. If it takes you more than 6 months to sell, that is a buyer's market. And why do we call it a buyer's market? Simply because the buyer has control. You as the seller, you are hoping somebody comes and buys your house. But the buyer doesn't have to hurry, and he doesn't even have to offer you, or she doesn't have to offer you as much as you think your house is worth. Now, if homes are selling less than 5 months, that becomes a seller's market. And there you stand. You have something that everybody wants. People are willing to fight for it and probably pay more than you thought you could get or pay your price. So as you plan anything you're doing, buying, selling, building, you want to know, are you in a buyer's market, a normal market, or a seller's market? Got it? So Morris County, if you look at these months, this is the month of supply. And the way we really dictate the month, the supply means that in Morris County today or last year, if no other homes came onto the market, nothing, this is how many we're selling. It would take 4.1 months to sell that supply, that inventory. At the 400K price point, 3 months. And then if you go over here to the 2.5 million, that's the infinity sign, obviously. It's going to take you forever and ever and ever to sell. As well as between the 1 million and 2.5, it's going to take you 15 months. That's with the snapshot of Morris County. So you need to know what is going on in your market. Oh, I put marks in there, apologies. You need to know what is going on in your market so you can plan accordingly. Because if you are somewhere where it takes 15 months to sell your home, then you should probably start earlier than you think so you can get your home sold. So here's an example of how absorption rates change based on price points. So this is Morris Township. And it's a simple math formula, and I'll walk you through it. So in Morris Township right now, today, it would be 4.05 months to sell the entire inventory if nothing else came on the market. And the way you come up with that is 81 active units are on the market right now. Well, last night, it's changed today. And I look back to see what has gone on in the last 30 days, because that tells me what is actually going on right now. Under contract, we're 20. So when you do that division, that's how you come up with 4.05. When you look at the 400 to 600,000 range, you see it drops down to 2.1 months. Here are the statistics for that math. And when you go 600 to a million, there are the statistics for that. So it's really important. You can know broad, but you also want to dig deeper to know general, specific, so you can make the most informed decision. And that's what we like to do, to make sure that our clients are educated and to know these are the numbers today, right? And we saw on the other slide that this was Morris County overall for 2018. That's what happened. And this is just an example of one town in Morris County. So every town that we would put up and evaluate and analyze would be different, and people would respond accordingly. So this is Morris County last year in terms of what sold and what the change was. So 17 is in this column, 18 is in that column. And you can see the number of homes went up, right? The median sale price is in the 400s. It ticked up a little bit. The days on the market, which is really significant, it went down a little bit, which just tells us things sold a little more quickly. And this key one is something you should also take into consideration, which is the percentage of the list price. And when I say list price, I'm not talking about that price that the seller thought they were going to get for their house and the property was listed. I'm talking about the list price when the house finally sold. So sometimes you will see properties that have many price drops. And in Morris County, when they finally got to a price point that the unit was going to sell, it sold for 97.9% of their list price. So that's important to know because some markets are different, right? But that's the county. And again, we could break it down town to town to town.
Leslie, does that mean the appraisal matched the list price from?
Not necessarily, because as you know, there are three ways your house is valued. It is the assessed value, which is what the tax office taxes you on. So in my humble opinion, you want your assessed value to be low because you're not going to pay as many taxes. So then you have the appraised value, and that is what the bank is willing to loan you money on. So you would like for it to match your offer price or the listing price, but sometimes in competitive markets, when it goes to multiple bids, people are willing to pay more than the list price by a lot. It could be as much as $100,000 or $10,000. So the bank isn't going to loan the money, but because I guess we're in Morris County and everybody has deep pockets, they just bring that additional money to the table. And that's the market value when you go over. So you've got the assessed price, low, appraised. You want the bank to appraise what your house is selling for, and then the market value, which someone is going to pay. So sometimes the house, quote, underappraises, but that might be because there's such a demand and the absorption rate is so low, they have to have that walk-to-town house in the center of Morristown, and they're willing to pay more than they should probably, well, they're willing to pay for it. Let's just go with that. Let's just go with that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So this is also another look at sales across all price points in Morris County for last year. So I think you can read it, but there are two things that I want you to kind of key in on. Okay, wait. Yeah, this is our sweet spot, sort of in the 500,000 range, 5 to 7, a little bit on the higher end of the 3 to 5. That's our sweet spot. So these are slower in terms of numbers, and that's also part of why the absorption rate is so high, meaning in months. Here's another way to look at it if you're a graph kind of a person. So same sort of scenario, 17 to 18. So last year, the comparison between 17 and 18, there were fewer in the less than 400K range, all right? 489 fewer. It's not that that market is falling apart. It may just mean that there are not that many units in Morris County that are priced under $400,000 because things have ticked up. So to show our sweet spot again, this one shows in 18 to 17, it went up 839 more units sold because in Morris County, that's where the bulk of our business is. That's the most popular price point range, 400 to 600, and then you would add on here. But there's an outlier up here, and maybe you've noted it, because I talked about that luxury market and how long it took to sell. This last one that says 29, an increase 29, is referencing over 2.5 million, the price points of 2.5 million. And a good way to look at that is if a house was priced over 2.5 million, and we've already shown you that the absorption rate takes more than a year to sell, those people might have been sitting on that property that was a $4 or $5 million property already for a year, and they haven't sold, and they said, we got to drop the price. Boom, drop it down to a $3 million price, a significant price point, which will then make the buyer that can't afford more than 2.5 decide that's a good value. I'm gonna get me a $5 million house and I don't have to pay $5 million for it. And it looks like 29 more people did that. So that is what that is about. So now, I come from a world, Megan mentioned about that I was from the tennis, and I played professional tennis, and rankings were very important. My singles ranking in the world was number 17 in the world, so I'm proud of that. But we're not here to talk about me. So back to the topic at hand, Morris County rankings. So I've already walked you through the absorption rate, and that's what these are. It's showing the month of supply. So Morris County is at 4.1, which essentially is saying all of Morris County is it a seller's or a buyer's market? What does it say?
A seller's
Thank you. Yes, a seller's market, right? So there we are at 4.1. Some are 6.8, so you don't want to be there. So based on all of the good stuff, that's where we are. Now, who had the strongest markets? Interesting. Riverdale, Morris Plains, Lincoln Park, Dover. So you're like, what? Okay, could be a lot of factors there. They may have low inventory. They may have tremendous price points. But the point of the fact is when a home came on the market in these towns, they flew because their absorption rate is under 2 months in some cases. And that's over the year. So you could look at week to week and all of those other things that I spoke about. Okay, if you're in this market and you're selling, talk to me. Here we go, ready? Weakest markets. Harding Township, Mountain Lakes. Wow. So this is 12 months, well, 12.7 to be honest. And this one is 15, Mountain Lakes is 15.6. That was over the year. Now within those towns, it's not saying that every home in Harding takes a year to sell. That's just the overall average. You could have a smaller bungalow if they exist in Harding, that would sell quickly. Yeah.
Couldn't that be their second or their third house?
Or their fourth, yes. Because it's Harding, So, and the same with Mountain Lake. So it is a luxury market. There are fewer buyers in essence for a luxury market because the millennials are thinking smaller. We don't need all of that big mansion anymore. So there are a lot of factors there. So if you are doing business in these areas, you would want to drill down to find out which price point is at this 12 month. What is the ARC for Harding or what is the ARC for Mountain Lake? So these are snapshots I'm giving you. Another thing to think about are the interest rates and how that impacts. So there's a lot of numbers and words up here. So this is what I want you to hear. Okay, right now we are in around the 4.72 interest rate. Let's just say we are. Could be a little bit more, a little bit less. So last year we might have been around the 3.8. But here's what happens. We're assuming they got $100,000 income, 10% down payment. These are the numbers. This is how your buying power changes when the interest rates go up. And that affects you as a seller and a buyer. So 1 year ago, if you were making a purchase, you could buy a home that you qualified for a $433,000 home. Today, nothing has changed other than your interest rate. It's ticked up from 3.8 to 4.7. You qualify for a $395,000 home. And if it goes up into the fives, 362. So the consumer's buying power does go down when the interest rates rise. Fortunately, we're still in here. We had a little bit of an uptick, but we're still kind of in this range. So as you all were talking earlier about educating your clients and sticker shock from the selling side and the buying side, you want to make sure, Because if somebody's on the fence, oh, I don't know, maybe, well, you better get ahead of that, those interest rates, if you're selling or if you're buying, because you want to have the most buying power. So in terms of forecasting who's gaining and who's losing, so in the county, Madison Borough and Chatham Borough are the two towns that the experts are predicting will have the highest percentage sales price increase at 5%. Because there's demand, people want to be there, that's how they rank. The biggest losers, I'm not really trying to pick on Mountain Lake or Harding, but it's awesome. But someone there needs to understand you may have to lower your price. That's a projection, that's a forecast. There's so many things that go into it, but that's how Morris County towns rate with other New Jersey towns, which will be things that people are looking at when they're making their decision whether or not they're going to move their business or their families to this area. An additional forecast, and don't let this look like doom and gloom, that little spike, all right? Because we are right here sort of at the top where it's leveled off, but there are a lot of things that could cause this to happen. The first thing is we have had so many months and months and months of appreciation, right? And we all know things go up and they go down. So I'm not saying we're gonna walk out of here today and it's gonna fall over, but it's gonna eventually have to fall. Fortunately, we're not in the crazy years pre-housing bubble burst where things accelerated so quickly. It could tick down. The home sales, people still need to buy. And like I said, millennials, they're buying. Boomers are selling, and boomers are doing two things because they do want to be in those train towns and buy a smaller home that's close to a train that they can go into the city and do stuff, but they don't need the yard and all of that. And then there are those that bought small and want to trade up. So all of these things are going on, but we really just have to determine within the county when the sales pace may slow or home prices slow. It's oftentimes tied to the economy. So that's sort of what is going on in the county. I say it's a positive forecast. As long as you are able to make an educated decision, you're good to go. So that's who we are. That's who I am.
Questions about the market? So you are seeing an uptick in millennial buyers, 37?
The millennial buyers, because after they do that whole Hoboken, Jersey City, then they come out here and get grass. In their backyards.
Right.
Once they have 2 kids, that's too much for the condo. They want to come.
Yes.
Yeah. We heard earlier that almost every town has got multiple apartment complexes under construction.
Right.
Is that you see you have an expectation of oversupply and diminishing rents?
I don't think so, simply because, you know, if Morristown can create what Hoboken, let's say, has, just use Morristown as an example, and those people want to be, because that's how young people want to, that's how some people want to live. So that is always going to be a factor, but it's not their lifelong scenario. And usually when you live in that live workspace, you then have to go to another town to have your forever home. The beauty about Morris County and some of the developments that are being built, you can be in that live workspace, have the convenience of never having to come out of your building and everything is right there, right? And then when you decide, you know what, I want a backyard, I want a front yard, you can stay in Morris County. And a perfect example is a client and a colleague. They lived in the apartments right by the Morris Township High School. A house down the street became for sale, and they just moved down the street into a house. So, yes.
What about the SALT issue? You know, reduction of taxes, for, you know, I mean, that's supposedly affecting people's.
Okay, listen to what I'm going to say. I am not a tax expert. Your tax person because it impacts everybody in certain ways. And I don't even want to begin to get in that lane to
No, but you
understand.
see people moving, selling homes because they don't have the amount of deductions that they used to have.
Well, because we're right in the beginning, we don't, there's not a lot of empirical data about it. The same reasons that people wanted to sell their house are the same reason they wanted to sell their house. Before they got the deduction, they felt like New Jersey taxes were high. So it's to be seen if the change in the tax laws, how that might additionally impact, because we're just at the beginning of it. So
Where do you see the future market for the Hardings and the Mountain Lake homes? I mean, where is the economy growing in New Jersey that's sustaining that type of home base with that type of property tax base?
I think it's going to be what the town offers, what else the town offers, because you look at a place like Denville, I mean, that's the opposite, but their downtown corridor is now being perked up to be like a mini Morristown, so it has a different kind of vibe that people want. So even though someone may want a large housing stock, they still want to have access to the cool factor. So that might be something. You know, I'm not that type of real estate developer, so I don't know. And people just don't want McMansions anymore in Morris County per se. You used to have to come all the way out here to Harding or Sparta or wherever to get that type of a home. But because the prices in the housing slump, they went down, you now don't have to go there as far west to get that.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your